I made £95 million with just this chisel. This tape measure is changing the game. Without this speed square, I would never have married a supermodel. We've all seen those YouTube videos, right? Some of us have even made them. YouTube is full of amazing woodworking creators and artists making brilliant videos that are informative, educational, and fun. But sometimes it does seem like there's a life cycle that most YouTubers seem to go through. And today, I'd like to talk about that. And just to make sure that nobody gets too angry or upset, I'm going to be using myself as the case study for this. Because if anybody's qualified to laugh at me, it's me. Let's begin. So what are the 10 stages of a woodworking YouTuber? Stage 1, humble beginnings. Most woodworking YouTubers start out the same way, in a really small shop. Maybe it's a garage, maybe it's a shed, maybe it's their conservatory. Either way, there's normally one thing in common. It's freezing in winter and roughly the temperature of the sun in summer. You've got about 3 tools, 2 of them work, one's a bit dodgy, and everything you make looks, well, looks like it's had artistic license added to it. You start filming what you're up to, maybe to document your learning, maybe to share a useful tip you think you found, or maybe just because it's a little bit of fun. Your camera, or potato, whatever you're using to film, is balanced on something it definitely shouldn't be balanced on to try and get a shot. And your whole filming setup costs less than one decent router bit. Nobody's watching, nobody cares, you're happy. If you'd have said something like CTR to me back then, I would have assumed you were talking about some sort of woodworking joint I'd never heard of. Stage 2, initial traction. Your views pick up a little bit and then something crazy happens. You get a comment, and it's not from your mum and it's not from your mate Dave either, it's from someone totally new. And then you get another comment. And then comments start trickling in. Some are encouraging, some most definitely aren't. Nothing really quite prepares you for the first time someone you've never met and will never cross paths with in your life tells you that you've ruined their entire day because you've held a chisel incorrectly. But it happens. Comments come more and more, and slowly you even start to pick up a new subscriber, or 2, or even 3. And every time someone subscribes, you dash into your account to try to see who it was, like it's Facebook. But YouTube doesn't work like that. It's still fun, it's still exciting. People are choosing to watch your videos. And that's what YouTube's all about at this moment, right? Fun. Stage 3, progression. Views are climbing, subscribers are subscribing. You're not viral, you're not massive, but you're making steady progress. And suddenly you think, hang on, actually, maybe this YouTube in like, I can do this a bit better. So you start trying to change the angles of your camera, maybe improve your pacing, maybe add some music into the background of a video for the first time. You're still making the same stuff, you're still doing it the way you want to do it, but just a little better, that 1% improvement each time. This is arguably the golden age of YouTube woodworking. Your audience is growing, your subscriber count is increasing, you're having fun, and you're documenting your journey, and hey, you're starting to feel like a YouTuber. And most importantly, the algorithm hasn't moved into your spare bedroom yet. Then comes stage 4, the first freebie. An email appears. Hi, creator / insert your YouTube name here. Already weird, but you read it anyway. We loved your video on exact video title that's clearly been pulled by an AI scrape. And we think you'd fit really well with our product. All seems a bit weird, maybe a bit scammy. And you're not sure, you're hesitant. And then you read further down and it says, we'd love to offer you our new tape measure, jigsaw, centering bit. And you're like, well, hey, well, I can't afford that and I've always wanted one of those. That would be great. And all you want me to do is use it or talk about it. Amazing. You accept their offer. You tell yourself, but this won't change who you are. You're still going to make content your way. You're going to be objective. But will you be? Stage 5, monetization. You've done it. You have crossed the line. the mythical boundary. You have got 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, and you, yes, you are monetized. This is the big leagues, kid. You've made it. Now suddenly you've got visions of leaving your job, going full time, spending all your time in the place that makes you happy, your workspace, creating the way you want to. You are officially making money from your woodworking content. Now, to anybody outside the hobby, this sounds ridiculous. But as you've got more and more into this activity, you've realized, well, hey, tools are expensive, finishes are expensive, builds take time. Wouldn't it be great if you could get something back for what you're doing? Now, some people go to craft fairs, some people set up Etsy shops, some people just make it for the love of the game. But YouTubing takes time. It took you 3 days to build a project that you then built again off camera in less than an hour. And then the edit took a week on top of that. Suddenly, a lot of your time is being eaten up by making content. And so, now that you're monetized, maybe you can start making some of that back. Maybe you don't need to go the craft fair route. Maybe YouTube can be your source of funding your hobby. How exciting. But with this comes a problem. Money has now entered the equation, and that always changes everything. Stage 6, the problem. Suddenly, the videos you like making aren't performing quite as well. They're not picking up the views. They're not bringing your subscriber count up. And really, although the YouTube Partner Program is great, you aren't getting the millions of views like the big hitters out there. And it's not enough to cover your needs. Not really. When you do get a few pennies here and there, it's fantastic. But it's a trickle compared to what you probably could earn through some other avenues if you tried. Not only that, due to some of the videos you've now started making, some of your original audience has moved on. Yes, some new viewers have arrived, but somehow the comments are also harsher, more critical. People aren't as happy. People are much more opinionated. The expectation is now higher. And suddenly, anxiety about your performance starts to creep in. This is no longer about just making YouTube videos. This is now about judging them. Stage 7, the analyst. Suddenly, you are poring over every key measurable on your video. You are scrolling through the analytics. You're checking your click-through rate, your average watch time, returning viewers, unique viewers, where your audience is coming from. At 2 AM, you're scratching your head and obsessing over why 40 people clicked off during the glue up. Why has that happened? Do people not like glue anymore? You don't understand. You need to know more. You dig deeper and deeper and deeper into the statistics. The workshop, secondary. The spreadsheet, necessary. And now, without noticing it, bit by bit, you're becoming an analyst who does woodworking on the side. Stage 8, the battle. It's David versus Goliath. It's you, the creator, versus the algorithm. You're convinced that somewhere there's a secret mechanism behind YouTube, a mythical code that you can unlock by hitting the right keywords, thumbnail and title. And in this battle, you're determined to come out on top. And yet somehow that results in your video titles becoming more extreme, more controversial. There's a bigger need to grab attention. It's no longer, here's a cool router tray I made. It's 15 methods the secret woodworking elite don't want you to know. It's no longer, hey, I found this cool tool and it's made my life a bit easier. It's the pencil that's disrupting the entire industry. I mean, the revolutionary thing about it, it writes on stuff. Brilliant. The videos get more and more exaggerative. The impact of new tools more and more emphasized. And the comments do climb and the views do climb. The subscribers, they come too, but the comments get harsher, way harsher. You use exaggerative names, content and thumbnails to drive engagement with your audience. And that starts to turn into something else. Something not quite as pleasant or enjoyable. The original goal of your channel was to build nice things and have fun with it. But now it's a one-on-one battle with a recommendation engine. And the engine is winning. Stage 9, the turning point. You've done it. You have won. against the algorithm. The views are climbing. The subscribers, they're flocking. But something's off. The comment section is hostile. The workshop feels exhausting. The process is all that matters, and it's draining. You realize you're putting so much time and effort into making things that not only may not perform the way you wanted to, but also didn't make you happy to produce them in the first place. This was about furniture making and scraps, right? Not game-changing equipment and engagement farming. That was never what you got into this for. And slowly, very slowly, that idea starts to creep into your mind. That question, why am I doing this? Wasn't this meant to be fun? Stage 10, you make a decision. Not a big one, not a shouted about one, a quiet one. That you're going to return to doing what made you happy. Maybe not so many tool reviews, maybe not so many exaggerative titles, desperately hoping someone will click on what you're saying. You decide to go back to chasing that pure happiness. Yes, you'll still film. Yes, you'll still build. But you'll go back to building things you want to build. And if people want to watch, that's great. And if they don't, that's fine too. Because the workshop was always the escape. It was meant to be the happy place. And you want to get back to that. And you feel less stressed. You feel more joyful. And some of the original viewers, well, they come back. Some leave, and that's okay too. Suddenly you're happy again. Now it's more about making that mallet with scrap woods, as opposed to staring at the analytics page, working out exactly why the spike and drop happened in your view time. You don't need that. You are enjoying yourself again, and you're happy. The world is good, the wood is being worked, and things feel better. In reality, behind every YouTubing woodworker, there's a real person. Maybe they're trying to support their family. Maybe they're trying to start a small business on this site. Maybe they're just trying to have fun. But I think it's really important as a creator to not lose sight of where we come from or why we're doing what we're doing. And I think also as a viewer, it's great to help lift creators up, not put them down. And at the end of the day, we are all just floating on a big rock in space anyway. It's not that serious. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was sufficiently tongue-in-cheek for you all. If you did enjoy it, please hit that subscribe button. It'd be great to have you stay around. And if you didn't, well, that's fine too. I'd love to hear your views on this topic, so please feel free to drop them down in the comments section below. But let's keep debate healthy. Debate is not a bad thing, but there's no need to be cruel or mean to people because they have a different view to you. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe, have fun, go make something. Thanks all.